Washington City Council meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. We are here in the council chamber for our regularly scheduled meeting. You can also watch our meetings live or watch archived versions at washingtoncity.org/meetings. As is tradition here at Washington City, we begin each meeting with a word of prayer offered by a rotation through the Interfaith Council. And this evening, we are happy to have President Steve Searle from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints offer our invocation. President Searle, if you'll come up forward and pray for us.
Our Father in heaven, how grateful we are to gather here tonight for important things that happen here in our city. We're grateful for this council, grateful for those who work with them, the staff and others who lead and guide and direct our good city. Father, we are grateful for this country we live in. We're grateful for our freedoms. Pray that thou will bless us, that we might be ever understanding of the opportunities that are ours as Americans, as members of this city, members of this great state. Father, we pray for this council tonight and the things that they do. Pray that they may be guided according to their own consciences and to the goodness that is in each of them. We are grateful for others who are gathered here today for important matters. Pray that thou will bless each and be with each and every one of them. Father, we're grateful for thy Son, Jesus Christ. Grateful for his guidance in our lives and all the things that he does to bless us. Pray that thou will bless our families. Pray again that thou will bless this council tonight. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We will move along with the agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Kurt Ivey, after which we are going to show a rendition of our youth council singing God Bless America that they did the other night on a night tour of the state capitol. Then we'll move forward with the approval of the agenda. Councilman Ivey.
Please stand. Follow along with me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, if you don't know the Washington City Youth Council, it's the best in the state. And we were privileged to take a trip up to the Capitol and have a night tour and visit with our legislators and greeted by the governor and had a great experience. So we appreciated the talent from local Washington City youth in singing. They just couldn't pass up the acoustics. It didn't do it justice in here, but in there it was a pretty magical moment. Council, just a few things before I turn to you for an approval of the agenda. Item number 5, which is a 5A presentation of the audited Washington City financial statements. Our auditor is on his way, so he may not be here. So if he's not here by the time we get to that point, We'll just slide him in as soon as he comes. And then I do want to let you know that we do have need to go to closed session for one minor item in regards to 12B, which is pending or potential litigation. That said, I'll turn to you for a motion to approve the agenda as outlined. Have a motion by Councilman Belliston,
Second.
second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion is approved unanimously. Next item is announcements. January 17th is President's Day. City Hall will be closed. The next item of business is a proclamation. It'll be my privilege now to read a proclamation, the mayoral proclamation regarding February as Healthy Heart Awareness Month. Whereas February is American Heart Month in the United States, and whereas heart disease is the #1 cause of death impacting every community in the United States, whereas approximately 805,000 Americans experience a heart attack annually, which equates to about 1 every 40 seconds, and whereas many people survive and live active, full lives after a heart attack, getting help quickly can limit the damage to your heart. And whereas about 70% of cardiac arrests occur outside of hospitals, and whereas bystander CPR is performed in less than 40% of cases, but CPR can double or triple the chances of survival from cardiac arrest and can prevent brain damage by maintaining blood flow to the brain. And whereas anyone can learn CPR through a certified course, and taking a CPR course can equip individuals with the skills to potentially save lives. And whereas practicing self-care can keep our hearts healthy, being physically active, eating healthier foods, getting enough sleep, not smoking, and finding healthy ways to reduce stress can help prevent heart disease. Now, therefore, I, Cress Staley, Mayor of the City of Washington, Utah, do hereby proclaim February 2025 Heart Health Awareness Month in the City of Washington, and encourage all residents to take measures to live healthy lives to ensure increased heart health and to learn life-saving skills by taking a CPR course to be prepared to act if the need arises. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Washington, Utah, this 12th day of February 2025. At this time, I'd like to invite our battalion chief, Chief Moore, to come forward and spend a few minutes discussing the importance of heart health, CPR training. Chief sounds a lot better than captain. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Battalion chief.
Just kind of like what your proclamation, went through is cardiac health is very important. And like you say, most people, well, I guess heart disease is the leading cause since the 1900s. So, and it's still true to this day. The difference between a heart attack and cardiac arrest are two different things. So a heart attack, we can see the symptoms, we can drive in, have a family member drive us in, and we can get that treatment as soon as we can. Where cardiac arrest is more of a incident onset, your heart completely stopped. And so, like you said, every 40 seconds somebody witnesses or has a heart attack, where cardiac arrest is every 90 seconds. Somebody actually passes away or experiences a cardiac arrest. So unfortunately, United States, we have about 360,000 people experience a cardiac arrest each year. And without oxygen to your brain, you have about 6 seconds before long-term damage begins. So the combination of early CPR with bystanders is essential to minimize the long-term damage and to have positive outcomes. So survival rates for cardiac arrest, they depend on your setting, your age, obviously your health, and the timelines that CPR and early defibrillation can be addressed. So in the hospital, they have a survival rate for cardiac arrest from 10 to 30%, where unfortunately out of hospital, survival rates range from 5 to 10%. In Washington City this last year, we had 22 cardiac arrests, and luckily, with the great quick response that we have and being able to respond in a timely manner, we were able to save 23%. So it was unfortunately, like say, age and things play into some of those stats, but we were able to increase that percentage. But the biggest thing is bystander CPR. Having that quick notice of seeing that something's gone wrong and calling 911 and starting CPR is crucial. So the AHA has gone to hands-only CPR now, so that's easier for people that aren't trained. So they're able just to start chest compressions because your body already still has oxygen in your bloodstream. So it's just to get the blood moving and that oxygen that's still in your body to your brain as quickly as possible. So we encourage everybody, and with the help of dispatch, they do a great job on coaching people that aren't trained. But being a trained in CPR is, like you were saying, 2 to 3 times more of a chance of survival. So the first responders, when we arrive, we show up and we are able to start with our AEDs or our defibrillation as soon as they're available, as well as being able to start with those life-sustaining measures, with the medications and IVs and stuff, so that can help. So with the 6 minutes that you have until you start getting that brain damage, it's essential for us to be able to respond as quickly and arrive to those patients as quickly as possible. Washington City, we follow NFPA 1710, which is a standard that is for all fire departments, and that says that fire departments need to be able to respond within a 4-minute response time. With that in effect, you still have that time of when 911 is called, when was it recognized that that person was in cardiac arrest, and then how long does it take for the firefighters or EMS to respond is critical. So we're able to luckily be able to spread our fire stations throughout the city, and as we grow, we try to take into account like where the best place for those buildings would be to be able to meet that standard and stay within that 4-minute response time. So we're lucky we have a couple firefighters with us today, and they were able to respond to a cardiac arrest, our very last one, that they were able to save this gentleman's life, and they were able to respond within, I think it was 4 minutes. I have it in my paper, but yeah, it was by the time the 911 was called and they arrived at the patient, it was just under 5 minutes. So it was crucial, but the thing that I believe that really helped was one of the other people there were able to start that CPR. They were CPR trained, able to start compressions, and that gives us the best outcome for cardiac arrest. So I mean, we all know how important it is to have a good, healthy lifestyle. And with that being the leading cause of death throughout America, it is, I believe you're right on the money with that being a good proclamation that we need to take into account that not only is it, how important it is to stay healthy, but to be able to live a long and happy life. So I would just like to appreciate what they did. I mean, that's what gives us the joy of having those positive outcomes. So.
Thank you, Chief. Well said. Appreciate that. So I'm going to read just a little bit of the way I understood what happened that night, and then we're going to recognize those who jumped into action and our first responders, and then we'll take a few pictures. So on January 16th, during a typical church basketball game at the Stake Center on Washington Fields Road, local resident Cameron Wilford, a husband and father of 4, suffered a sudden and severe cardiac arrest known as the Widowmaker. This type of heart attack occurs when the left anterior descending artery collapses, cutting off blood flow to the heart's upper chambers. Cameron collapsed face first on the court. Fortunately, a group of quick-thinking players and a brother overseeing the activity, none of whom had a previous connection to Cameron, and none of whom who had professional training or experience in the medical field, immediately sprung into action. They began by calling 911 and administering a priesthood blessing, then performed CPR, delivering chest compressions and rescue breaths without pause. Despite the alarming signs, Cameron's chest and head turned purple. The group refused to give up until paramedics arrived. Cameron was rushed to the hospital where doctors placed a stent to restore blood flow. After 2 nights of monitoring, he was discharged. Although still recovering from some chest soreness, Cameron expressed profound gratitude for the individuals who saved his life, meeting most of them, or will meet most of them, for the first time this evening. So at this time, it will be my honor to recognize the individuals of the names that were passed on to me of who administered life-saving action to save Cameron's life. And I might note that Cameron's wife was there at the basketball game that night as well. So at this time, I'd like to invite Braden Knoll to come forward, David Gertsch, Courtney Christiansen, Jeff Monson, and I'll note that Trevor Kolf also assisted but was unable to attend. Gentlemen, this isn't enough, but what we have for you, we have certificates that we'd like to present to you in appreciation for your actions that night that saved Cameron's life and kept his family intact. So I'll bring these down to you. How about a round of applause for these gentlemen? At this time, I'd like to invite firefighter Snyder and firefighter Armsworth to stand and be recognized for being the first responders on this scene. If you wouldn't mind standing over by these guys. I'd also like to note that Captain Proctor was leading that crew that night and unable to make it, but he sends his best. At this time, and Cameron, I've known you for a long time. We've known each other for years. I'd invite you to come forward, but on your way to the pulpit and share your thoughts, I'd like you to shake hands and meet the individuals that saved your life that night.
So it's kind of hard to know what to say. Especially when you don't remember any of it. So I'm a testament to good city services and good people who will step forward and do things that maybe not all people would do. So I want to say thank you for your courage, because I don't know if I would have the courage to do that. Thank you for your faith, and thank you for your willingness. I have very little recollections of that night. In fact, I don't actually recognize anyone, even though I was playing basketball with them for 5 minutes. And I wasn't very good. I apologize for whoever was on my team. I actually don't like basketball, and I might not ever play it again. That being said, I'm a little overweight, but sometimes things happen to people that we don't expect. And I'm grateful that I happened to be surrounded by the right people when something happened that I did not expect, nor did my wife expect. I toyed around with ideas of, do you give them a gift card to like Applebee's? Do you bring them a flower? And just nothing can really do it justice. And so from the bottom of my heart, which is beating today because of you, I thank you. And now I get to see exactly what CAM 2.0 can do. Thank you so much.
Cameron, would you and your family come forward? And we'd like to get a picture with you and the first responders and the lifesavers. If you could all kind of gather down there in the front. Would like to get a group picture. And we'll stay back here and let you, Jordan, if you can kind of direct traffic to get a good balance on that picture. And Thank you. This is, unfortunately, we have to move on with the rest of the meeting, but we're just very grateful to live in such a great community where we have people who step up and do the right thing. And it's really inspiring to see you and your family here tonight, Cameron, and it's inspiring to see those who love and support you from the community, from the church, from the city. And we're just really grateful that we've got you around for a lot longer. If you were just here for that item, you're welcome. You're welcome to move along with your evening. If you're interested in the rest of the agenda, you're welcome to stay. All right, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is declarations of abstentions and conflicts. Council, is there anything to declare this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on with the consent agenda, consisting of item 4A, approval of minutes from the City Council meeting 1/22/25 and the board audit report for January 2025. Unless there's minor clarification or pulling an item, I'll call for motion on the consent agenda.
Mayor, I can make that approval for the consent agenda for our February 12th meeting.
I have a motion by Councilman Ivey.
Second.
Second by Councilman Belliston. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved unanimously. We'll move on to item 5, which is finance. 5A, this is a presentation of the audited Washington City financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024. I'll invite Finance Director Brian Brown and our City Auditor with Hinton Burdick, Chad Atkinson, to come forward at this time.
Brian doesn't have a speech, so I guess I'll go for it, right? All right. Mayor, members of the council, it's good to be with you tonight to present the fiscal year 2024 audit for the city. My name's Chad Atkinson. I'm with Hinton Burdick, and happy to present tonight. The nature of the presentation will be high level, so if you have follow-up questions, we certainly encourage you to reach out afterwards, and we can dig into files or whatever we need to answer your questions that you may have. So we'll go to this first slide. Wanted to just say thank you to the city and the city staff for their excellent help. Each year we efficiently move through the audit process, and we certainly appreciate Brian and Jeremy and everybody that's involved in providing this information to us. As I go along tonight, there may be some occasions where Brian or others would like to offer some insight into the financial statements themselves, so I'll invite them to do that. Also, I'm going to cover the management, or I encourage you to cover the management's discussion and analysis. Be sure that you read through that. That's the executive summary for the fiscal year, and should be read and reviewed if you don't get a chance to go through the whole document. So, all right, so I'm going to go through audit reports and findings, and then a few financial highlights, and should take just a few minutes to do that. So we'll go to audit reports. These are found in your financial statements. I think you have a PDF copy of the financial statements, and I think there's hard copies available as well. But the governance letter that should have been provided in your packet, these are just standard communications that we give to the governing board. Nothing really in there to review or go over with you. They're just the standard communications that we're required to make each year. So we'll just skip on to the next auditor's reports. The independent auditor's report, we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. So there are no problems or issues with the financial statements as presented. The report on internal control over financial reporting, that's on page 85. There were no reportable conditions, material weaknesses, or significant deficiencies noted. The town's finance office really does a good job with internal controls and ensuring that taxpayer dollars are spent where they should be. So no internal control findings. Also on page 87, we have a report on state compliance, and that was an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. I'll just mention here, I don't have this in my slides, but we did do a federal single audit this year on the ARPA money that was spent by the city. And I'm happy to report in that separate report that will go to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse that there were no problems or issues there and no findings. So congratulations to the city on that. Okay, a few financial highlights for you. On page 20 or page 24 in the financial statements, that's where you'd find the operating statements for your governmental funds and your proprietary funds. I'm assuming you've had a chance to kind of kick those around and look at those ahead of time. Are there any questions from either of those pages on just the operations for the year or anything that came up that we can talk about here? Okay, seeing no questions, I will go into a few graphs that we've prepared. These are just financial highlights for you to consider. First one is the current property tax revenue trend. Yeah, that's what it should be. So you can see the property taxes are increasing slightly from the previous year, 5.3 million last year, 5.4 million this year. General fund revenues were up because of that and continues to be a good trend. Everybody knows that we're the fastest growing state, I think, in the United States, and Washington City is part of that. And so you're going to see increases from new homes and other things that are going on in the county. So the next slide is sales tax revenue that follows kind of a similar pattern. You've got 12.7 million in 2023, and now at a little over 13 million in sales tax revenues. Okay, and then these are the general fund expenses with last year and this year side by side, so you can see what's increasing, what's decreasing. The majority of the decrease in the general fund, you can see, is that bottom line. There were less transfers out of the general fund in 2024. But every function of government, general government, public safety, streets and highways, all had minor increases over the year. In general government, there was an increase there due to the purchase of new software, Oracle Inception. So that increased. Also, there was some increases in salaries and in building maintenance. In the building maintenance department, there were some increases in attorney fees due to the increase in legal cases. Public safety expenditures increased due to increases in salaries, employee benefits, and emergency vehicle spending. And then, as I mentioned, the transfers out of the general fund were down from the previous year. So, okay, and then these next slides go over the various utility funds in the city. And I'm not going to read through all of this because I know that you can take a look at it really quickly. I'll make you a commitment though. Next year I will have visual slides. We won't have this much text going on. We'll have some graphs and things like that we can look at. Okay, so I'm going to correct that for next year. But for this year, we'll stick with this. Probably the main thing to look at here is that your reserves in the water fund have gone up from 23 to 24. You're at about 17 months of reserves on hand in the water fund. And it went from, the unrestricted net position was 9 million last year, and it was 14.2 million this year at the end of 2024. And that's a sizable increase in reserves. Okay, so a lot going on that slide. Any questions before I skip to the next one? No, okay. All right. backwards. Sorry about that. Okay, the sewer fund. You can see the operating income or loss is pretty consistent from 23 to 24, pretty consistent there. Non-operating revenue or expense, that includes things like impact fees, investment earnings, interest expense, et cetera. So that was up during 2024. So the income or loss before transfers and capital contributions was actually up from the previous year. And you can see that the months of reserves on hand in the sewer fund is also up to 23 months. Well, actually went down a little bit. It's at 23 months instead of 27 last year. So still in healthy condition in the sewer fund. And the electric fund, I'm just going to comment on the income or loss before transfers and capital contributions, kind of in the middle of the slide there. Last year, it was a negative 265,990. This year, a positive 6,086,321. There were some favorable, energy purchases. We didn't have as much cost that went into energy purchases as we talked that through with Brian. So that created positive results in the electric fund. And you can see that the months of reserves on hand are up from 6 months to 11 months. Okay, storm drain. Storm drain is whistling a similar tune here. So the income or loss before transfers and capital contributions was up from the previous year, a little over $1 million there. And you can see the months of reserves on hand went up from 7 months to 15 months. So positive results in the storm drain. And then we have just this slide with all the other fund balances that you may have an interest in or maybe budgeting for or working through a project on. We've got the 2023 fund balances versus the 2024 here and whether they went up or down. The street fund was up due to some increases in contributions from other governments. There was some UDOT funding in there, so you saw a sizable increase there. And then finally, this is our contact information, and really appreciate those that are digging through, getting audit documentation, kind of bearing the burden of getting through the audit. And so I want to compliment Victoria and the other members of the audit team that helped to complete this process, along with Brian Pepper and others. So any questions or comments, concerns, follow-up?
Council, anything for Mr. Atkinson?
Just one. I like the part where it says complied in all material aspects with state compliance. Is there any of those that you would suggest maybe more stringent guidelines, or are those pretty well set for where we need to be?
If we have anything that's even on the edge of maybe being reportable, we talk those over with Brian. I don't think we had anything this year that was significant there, so we're in good shape. Can you always do better? Yes, you can always do better, but as far as reportable conditions, there are none. So,
Chad, I think this council and myself included, we would just echo your thoughts and appreciation for Brian and his department. They work really hard to have a clean and boring audit, which is exactly what we want. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, and it might surprise you, but my degree is also in accounting, and we like an uneventful audit with no findings. And so we appreciate the relationship we have with you and with Hinton Burdick. You have worked with Washington City for a lot of years, and you know our people, you know how we operate, and this is just once again the exact kind of boring audit we want. You're not boring. You're as exciting as they come.
well,
How did you feel about that attorney audit letter, Chad? Was it also clean and boring?
attorney audit letters, they are just awesome to read. If you've ever read those before,
I write them.
Some very good reading, yes.
Well, thanks for your hard work. We know that a lot of that work goes on behind the scenes, and you're checking a lot of things out on site in our offices and doing your job to make sure that we're doing our job. And frankly, the reason that we joke about loving a boring, clean audit is because we all here as elected folks and staff, we feel that responsibility to make sure that we take care of taxpayer dollars with complete honesty and trust. So thank you for making sure that's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Next item of business, item 6, public hearing. 6A, this is a public hearing and consideration to approve an ordinance amending the Washington City Power Impact Fee Facility Plan and Impact Fee Study. At this time, I'll invite our Power Director, Rick Hansen, to come forward and refresh the council on an item that we've already addressed in a work session. After that, I will open the public hearing up, then I'll turn back to the council for further discussion and a motion. Mr. Hansen.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Steve, can I share my screen? Yeah, as the mayor indicated, we went over this at the work session on January 22nd. The only change in your packet this time was on the impact fee facility plan. We removed the draft watermark. Other than that, all the documents are identical to what you had at last meeting. So I'm not sure how much detail you want at this point, or if you're happy, I'm happy. And we did go over last time, comparison to adjacent cities and utilities. We're in good shape there. To use as a benchmark, we still have to do our own thing to meet our needs. But
Councilman Coates, your assignment and your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my thoughts are we've had 2 meetings on this, really. I mean, we had a work session, then we've discussed a little more in council meeting, and in my opinion, we've gone over it. Power Board has approved it, and we'll just look and see if there's anything that come up in the public comment, unless other council members have difference of opinion.
Rest of council feel okay about that? Thank you, Rick. Okay. This time I'll open the public hearing for anyone who would like to talk about item 6A, an ordinance amending the Washington City Power Impact Fee Facility Plan and Impact Fee Study. The public hearing is open. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll also note that we received no public comment, electronic public comment prior to the meeting. Council, this time I'll turn to you for further discussion and/or a motion on item 6A.
I'll make, if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the impact fee facility plan and impact fee increase from, there's a whole bunch of rates, so do we want to say it specifically or just as outlined in the report?
FAD, impact fee study as presented.
Correct. Okay, so I'll make a motion, we approve the impact fee study as in our packet.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Councilman Coates. Have a second by Councilman Bellison. This is an ordinance, so we'll go roll call, beginning with Councilmember Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy. Coates.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Belliston.
Aye.
The ordinance is approved unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate you, Rick. Item 7, conditional use permit, 7A. This is consideration to approve conditional use permit C-24-18 for a concrete batch plant located at 7600 South Washington Fields Road. The applicant is Bush and Gudgel. I see Bob Hermanson here. And our Community Development Director, Assistant Director Eldon Gibb will present on this item. And while he's walking up, if you look through your packet, that's a pretty cool mobile batch plant, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, that's maybe the highlight of my preparation. Eldon.
Thank you, Council. The zoning designation at this location is PUDC. The development agreement provides an avenue for the developer to submit for a temporary concrete production facility through a conditional use permit. The total area of the site is 630 feet by 443 feet wide for a total of 6.41 acres. And the purpose of this conditional use permit is to have concrete readily available at this development for the footings, slab, concrete tilt-up walls, curb gutter, sidewalk, concrete drive approaches, and other concrete needs. Concrete will also be delivered to construction projects off this site. Staff supports this purpose and understands the large concrete demands of the project. However, staff is uncomfortable with exporting concrete that is outside the ARA development. Staff is comfortable exporting materials up to a radius of 5 miles, and condition number 4 has been added to address this concern.
Eldon, what is the concern about having it be out of this project?
Just the busyness of the trucks and traffic. We're okay servicing the surrounding need, but wanted to limit that and just have a little more say as to how much traffic would be involved with that.
So one of the benefits of this proposal is it reduces vastly the number of concrete trucks driving into the city each day. Possible detriment is if it were to stick around forever, sending concrete trucks out each day. And so the idea is let's harvest the benefit during the duration of this project so that we have fewer concrete trucks driving through our city. While also recognizing that this is an area that we hadn't really planned to be an industrial concrete batch type use forever.
There's a radius bubble that outlines that 5-mile radius, so you can kind of see how far that extends to. This conditional use permit is temporary and includes a portable concrete plant as shown in the exhibit, including several heavy-duty pieces of equipment, conveyor belts, front-end loaders, and delivery trucks. Sand and aggregate will be stockpiled on site along with cement and fly ash, along with a few Connex boxes to be used for storage. Ingress and egress are shown on the site layout, and the egress includes a stabilized roadway entrance to minimize track out onto Washington Fields Road. The stabilized roadway will need to be constructed and maintained for the duration of this site to eliminate track out throughout the duration of this permit. The batch plant requires 3 employees, and typical hours of operation are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., with occasional work occurring during the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. to accommodate early morning pours. Crushing and or recycling concrete will not take place on site. The applicant is planning to construct a 10-foot tall landscaping berm in 2 locations, the front and the rear, to seclude the site from both Washington Fields Road and the Southern Parkway. These berms will include live growth with landscaping and trees. The applicant has identified the life expectancy between 10 and 15 years, depending on the build-out of the ARA development. The applicant is asking for a 10-year approval with the option to extend an additional 5 years for a total of 15 years. And on that note, staff is comfortable with a 5-year approval with the option to renew at year 5 and again at year 10 for a total of 15 years. And condition number 1 has been added to address these concerns. On February 5th, 2025, the Planning Commission reviewed this request and unanimously recommended approval of C-24-18 for the temporary concrete batch plant located in the ARA Center development as shown in the exhibits, based on the following findings and conditions. During the Planning Commission, I went through the 11 conditions here, and I'm happy to read through those again if you'd like, Mayor.
Council, would you like to hear those conditions again? I agree that those are probably the biggest, most important part of that. You've probably all already read them. So this council comes prepared, but thanks for the offer, Eldon.
You bet. That concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, clarifications for Assistant Director of Development?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to, Eldon, the only thing on the timeline, I don't see a problem with timeline, but I would like to see that after 10 years, it has to be approved by council for the additional 5th year, just in case something comes up and someone's dissatisfied. I doubt I'll be around on this council, but I would like not to hinder our future council members. So that's all, the only change I would request is that I'm good with the 5-year and the 10-year, after 5 years, staff approves it, and then after the 10-year, it would have to be a council. That would be my recommendation.
So what was this, when it was first approved, and maybe Drew, you can help me with this one, it came in with zoning, was it C3 zoned initially before they changed it to PUDC?
We annexed it in at C3 because we weren't quite sure if, economic development back then came in and with the people that we were working with at that time, C3 was going to be the best for everything. And then the R development came along, and then we went to PUD because they needed.
General planned it, with heavy commercial.
Yeah, the general plan was business park.
Whatever.
And commercial and.
Under that zoning, a batch plant is a permitted use, correct?
Industrial, but it's still with a conditional use permit.
It's still with conditional use permit? I mean, I think that was the intent of the overall area when it was initially annexed in and zoned, was this type of use. And so I don't have an issue with it, especially where it's temporary in nature, even though albeit it's a long temporary.
Thank you, Councilman. Further questions for staff? Mr. Hermanson, do you have anything to add, or are you comfortable with the recommendations, conditions? You feel good about all of that? Okay. Council, I'll turn to you now for further discussion and or a motion on this particular item, 7A conditional use permit C-24-18 for a batch plant located at 7600 South Washington Fields Road.
Mayor, I'm comfortable with making that approval if the council's ready.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Make a motion to approve a conditional use permit C-24-18 for a concrete batch plant located at 7600 South Washington Fields Road.
You've heard the motion by Councilman Ivey. Is there a second?
I'd like to modify that condition 1, state that the first extension is by staff, the second extension's by council approval.
You're comfortable with adding that to your motion?
Yes.
Okay, you've heard the
second
motion
that.
with modification. I have a second now by Councilman Coates. It's a conditional use permit. Let's go roll call, starting with Councilmember Ivey.
Aye.
Coates, Henderson, Belliston, Casperson. That is approved 5-0 unanimously. We look forward to that batch plant, making those buildings go vertical. Good job, Bob. Next item of business, item 8 is an ordinance. 8A, consideration to approve an ordinance for zone change Z-25-02 from PUDR to R18 located at Red Sands Drive and White Sands Drive. The applicant is Civil Science. And Eldon Gibb, Assistant Community Development Director, will present to the council on this item.
The requested change is from the current zoning of PUDR to a proposed R18 zoning designation. The R18 request is for the purpose of developing the property into a 2-lot residential subdivision. The surrounding zoning to this parcel is R18 to the north, east, south, and west. Staff has no concerns with the proposed zone change as outlined. On February 6th, 2025, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-25-02 for the zone change request from PUDR to the proposed R18. And that was based on the findings as stated in the packet. That concludes staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Council, any questions for staff? Any comments? If not, I'm happy for a motion on this item.
A quick question, and then I'm ready to make a
Councilman Belliston, question and your motion.
I'm just curious how that ended up PUDR, where it's bifurcated from the other stuff.
It's complicated. I'll let Drew handle that one.
It's complicated. We're going to give it to you, Drew.
Acceptable answer.
There was a really good discussion in the planning commission that goes into detail about that, if you're interested in watching that.
Many, many, many moons ago, there was this whole area. In fact, this R18 area you see here was also PUD. This whole area up here was supposed to be recreation area, and there were some silt ponds, the old timer Washingtonites
I'm clicking you to
know this.
1.25. Keep going.
There you go. And so those other 3 lots came in, but we did the whole subdivision, the R18. This is a different subdivision. This is where that park was supposed to be built by the developer and never happened.
I mean, we did the swap here recently, so.
This piece was actually part of that. So then this particular, the new landowner and the city were able to come together and get with the HOA and the owners, that have the piece, which are all the residents of the subdivision down below there. And everything worked out where they finally released it out to be used, and it's not going to be a park. Then the piece that's directly east of this, we owned. And then the other person who ended up helping get this piece he owned that piece. We had this piece under.
Swap, I just didn't
Yeah.
know that piece was.
That's why it was part of the PUD, and it was all about amenity area.
You were
so.
probably involved back in the day, Councilman.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot through that whole area, so.
We've had people looking at this for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, trying to.
This is a victory lap. Go ahead, Councilman.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion that we approve an ordinance for zone change Z-25-02 from PUDR to R18 located at Red Sands Drive and White Sands Drive.
We have a motion by Councilman Coates. Is there a second?
Motion by Councilman Bellison, but Councilman Coates will second that.
Have a motion by Councilman Bellison and a second by Councilman Coates. Thanks for keeping me straight. Again, ordinance, we'll go roll call, beginning with Councilmember Coates, Henderson, Belliston, Casperson, Ivy. Section 9 of the agenda, resolution. This is consideration to approve a resolution, a council resolution, adopting the priority usage and rental policy for what was previously called the old gym, what we're now referring to as Heritage Hall. City Manager Jeremy Redd.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. I'm glad everything's gone so well tonight. We hope it stays that way. The 2 items that I have, we've also been through, but I'm happy to go through them. We also, for the Heritage Hall policy, we've got Barry here from Leisure Services and Michelle, who works in our events staff and will help implement some of this policy. And her and Tess helped me work on writing it, as well as input from the council from our previous meetings. But essentially, I hope you've had a chance to use it or to read it. We went in the gym today. You can see really how it's going to be used. The only thing I would mention from today is we still have yet to put up the sound baffles. So if you remember in this room, it was a little echoey until we got those up, but they'll be very similar. They'll be up on the top of the wall.
Will they look like this,
It'll
Jeremy?
really help.
They'll look similar to this?
They look just like regular sheetrock. They don't
Okay.
have the texture that these have, but they'll be in 3 to 4 weeks. So that'll even make that a little bit better. But you can see how well it'll be used and how excited people are to use it. We have a lot of people already looking to rent it and things like that. And so I hope I captured what you wanted. I was hoping to get the city council really to buy off on the policy as we start this building, so everybody understands we start on the same foot. Really, some things I would bring up if we look at venue hours under number 3. We're at this point looking to have Monday through Thursday during work hours be available for city use, for meetings, for other government meetings that might come up. And then we'll have limited use 5 to 9 Monday through Thursday. If there are other smaller events, that wouldn't really be something that would be open for like a wedding or something that you would have to do a lot of decorating. The weddings and the family reunions and those kind of things we would see Friday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then Sunday, we have a very limited use. If there was something that meshed with the community in the area on a Sunday, that could potentially be approved. One thing that comes up a little bit at the community center that we have in place also is political events. Because we're a nonpartisan political entity, if there's somebody that wants to run a political event, they have to pay for it, and we don't offer discounts. That way, we're not supporting one politician over another, one political party over another. And then, of course, the Monday through Thursday after 5, we've set a price of $100 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. Friday and Saturday, $250 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. And then there would be tablecloths as necessary, $10 each, and those, because we have to go out and rent them from a company. Any questions, anything in here that you read through that you wanted to have further discussion on, or does this capture what you're? Councilman Coates?
This is a good start, Jeremy. I mean, I'm sure we'll make changes as we see things come up, but it got down what I felt like we addressed in our work session over it.
What I would maybe suggest is that I certainly agree that mayor and council should have no discounts, but sometimes our employees might be able to utilize this. If there's at some point, we could maybe consider a better discount for employees to utilize that space. That means a lot to all of us, right? So just at some point, if that's something the council would like to have a discussion about, I think it would be valuable.
Okay. Yeah, we took the 15% from what is currently in place at the community center. If an employee rents and that would include any employee of the city, part-time, full-time, really elected officials, any employee. So that's where we went with that number. We could certainly change it at your discretion.
Further feedback from the manager? Thanks, Jeremy. Council, at this time, I'll turn to one of you to make a motion to approve the resolution adopting the priority usage and rental policy for Heritage Hall.
Mayor, I can do that. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a resolution adopting the priority usage and rental policy for Heritage Hall.
We have a motion by Councilman Henderson, second by Councilman Belliston. It's a resolution, so let's go roll call, beginning with Councilmember Henderson.
Aye.
Belliston. Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
Coates. Item 9A is approved unanimously. Item 9B, this is consideration to approve a resolution adopting the compensation policy for Washington City. Once again, City Manager Jeremy Redd.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another item that you may or may not remember talking about. It was September of last year that we brought it up, and then we went back and did some work on it. I like the timing right now because we're not in the middle of our budget yet. We're starting that process, but this is more of a policy, or you could even call it a philosophy on how we want to go about constructing our pay for our employees. The few things that we made changes to that were different from last time is we spelled out the local entities. We added that market wages will be compared to the private sector when applicable and available for comparison. So when those we can compare. Of course, all compensation is based on the city's ability to pay. It's based on budgets. And I think all of you have been through multiple budgets and understand that. So those are the adjustments that we made from the last policy. But I like having a policy in place so that we talk about how we want the philosophy of the city to be in regards to pay, rather than, talking about individuals and individual positions. Any questions as you read through this for the second time?
Council.
I was just gonna say, Jeremy, I read through it. I like it. I appreciate the fact that you took all of our input and incorporated it into the document, and I think it's great. So.
Sounds like we're ready for a motion, unless there's any further comments.
I'll make the
Councilman
motion.
Casperson.
I make a motion to approve a resolution adopting the compensation policy for Washington City.
Have a motion by Councilmember Casperson,
That there?
second by Councilmember Ivy. Let's go roll call, beginning with Councilmember Belliston.
Aye.
Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
Coates.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
A resolution adopting the compensation policy for Washington City is approved unanimously. Thank you, Jeremy. I think we all agree that you did a nice job putting together a policy that meets the directive of the council.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good work. Next item of business is report of officers from assigned committees. We'll start on my left with Councilmember Belliston.
This was an interesting month for me. So, the chamber, I know, went up Salt Lake and had a great meeting up there with the legislators. I was unfortunately unable to attend. So
You've been building stuff.
I was a little busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Henderson.
I don't have anything. I do have a
couple of meetings coming up, one this week and one I think next week. So next time I'll be able to have a better report.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Coates.
I have a report on the solid waste. We went and met with the CIB board last week. Well, I didn't, but the manager did. But the CIB had a shortfall this year, so we got axed. So we didn't receive our funding that we needed for our phase 3 of the landfill. So we're going to start looking at other options. Like we needed a $5 million loan from them. They were shortfall over $5 million. So, and because we're not a producing county, they said, well, we just won't work with you guys this year. And I don't think there was any hard feelings. We got an email a couple weeks ago about it, and I kind of figured that's how it would happen. But we can go back next year, or we're going to look at, we can bond for it. And we've also talked about self-funding it with some of our own money and paying ourselves back kind of a thing, which on this phase 3, we probably could do it. We're also, I'm deep diving into the plan because I think there was some wishes that kind of shouldn't have been granted and kind of got, so we're diving into that plan to kind of scale it back and say, well, what is the need, not the want?
Yeah.
At this point, and help save some of the public money. I think we can get it down. The project was $6.5 million. I think we can get it down under 6 with some of the cost savings we're trying to do. We're thinking about retrofitting the existing building, administration building, into some uses instead of building a new building. So for some of those, like a break room or something like that. So that's kind of where we're at with it. I'll give you an update when I know. The rest of the project's coming close to a close. We're not done. We're still working through some final things, but I'm sure they'll have a grand opening, and I'll get you guys all invited when that gets to that point. But I don't have a date as of yet because, yeah, I'll just say that.
Well, I agree with Councilman Henderson. I drove by the other day and I stopped and took some pictures through the chain link because that administration building, the way station, it's looking really nice. And so maybe we'll wait till that grand opening and we'll get out there and check it out. Good work. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Ivey.
You know, a lot of you were here and you heard the rendition from the Youth Council singing our national anthem under the dome at the state capitol. And I wish you could have heard it the way it was presented that night with the echoes and the ambiance. It was really special to see that. Our youth council, just like Governor Cox said, is the best anywhere. And I've seen no evidence not to believe that. And so I would just say that they had a great trip to the Capitol. We were able to meet not only with our legislators, but they also meet with our good friend, Derek Brown, that was just elected as our Attorney General. We were able to talk about some bills that are important. We discussed whether or not cell phones should be used in schools. We discussed with them whether or not gun education should be taught in schools. And it's really fun to hear their feedback and have those conversations with our legislators. So it was a wonderful trip, and I'll tell you, they are amazing. I wish every youth in our city could have that experience. It was absolutely incredible. But legislative policy, tonight I'm going to present a little bit differently than what I've done in the past during the session. There's tons to talk about, but tonight I feel inspired to talk more about what we're fighting off so far at the session. And we've got a new planning commissioner here, so this might be good information for him as well. But this is just some things under the state zoning. We're fighting off ADUs by right, small lots by right, housing by right in commercial areas, statewide upzoning, state housing overlays, state land use appeals authority, and then on it goes. And then the last one, binding general plans. Municipal revenue, changing the 50/50 sales tax formula, reducing impact fees, withholding Class C funds, and then land use processes, eliminate plan review, privatize building inspections, and you get the idea of where we're heading. These are things that it's so powerful and so important for us to be, as a city, to be involved through the League of Cities and Towns and in touch with our legislators and advocating face to face, because these are real issues that we're fighting back against. We've identified the bills that are the ones that excuse me, that are seeking to preempt our rights. And of course, what's the motto that we're using this year is partnership, not preemption. We want to be a partner with the state and understanding the issues with housing and different things, working together because we have our job to do here, just like the state does. But we're continuing to work with those. I'm actively tracking 32 bills right now that I feel like are extreme importance to our city. And again, this is what this session is shaping up to be, is what we are fighting. And what we're fighting for is to keep our anonymity here and our ability to make our decisions for our community to benefit our citizens. Thank you, Mayor.
Well said. Thank you, Councilman. And I witnessed the work that you do. Appreciate the relationships that you've built, that Jordan's built, and that Eric Isom's built on the Hill, and representing city's interests, ours and others. Well done. Councilwoman Casperson.
There are some meetings being held for the Cotton Days planning, and I was unable to attend today with prior obligations, but Cotton Days is always fun to plan for, and everyone that looks forward to that. So I'm excited to join the future meetings for that.
Well, we appreciate your input and all your service on that. It is shaping up to be really nice. I think, as I understand, we'll continue to do the field trips during the week, but maybe more condensed, more of a Friday, Saturday with most of the events this year. So that'll be awesome. Thanks for your work there. I just have a few brief items. First of all, I would just like to welcome Leah, St. George News. She's on the Washington beat, and right out of Utah State. She's an Aggie, and she couldn't have gotten a better assignment than being here. So welcome. Tuesday, March 11th at noon at the Heritage Hall, I'll be giving a State of the City address. Appreciate the support from the chambers in helping make that a reality. And if you have, we were just in there, and for the residents and those who haven't been in there yet, we have completely remodeled, revived that building and inserted some really cool audio-visual elements into a historic sandstone building on a lava rock foundation. So it to me is authentically Washington. And then just the last thing I would say, Council, is I've been just kind of pondering we've dealt with some issues, some tough issues with different items that come before the Council. And I just have this recurring thought of how grateful I am for each and every one of you. I really appreciate the opportunity that I have to work with this Council collectively and individually. I am very grateful for the ability to share the load with each of you and for the opportunity we have to pull together. And I rely on each of you more than you know. So just, I don't say it enough, but I just want to tell you thank you and how much I appreciate each of you. And I'll go to the next item, which is the city manager report. Jeremy.
Thank you, Mayor. It's kind of a weirdly emotional night tonight, and I echo the mayor's statement a little bit. One of the favorite things that I get to do is put together this management report, and all of the departments help with it. But I like it because it really shows what we're doing here as cities. And to Councilman Ivy's point, we do a lot and we approve a lot of things and we work with a lot of tough issues, but this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the work that we do and how it really impacts our residents, and almost every one of our departments and all of our employees really have a piece in this. So this is the management report for 2024. I'll just highlight a couple of things here. You can see our population number. This is because I get to make the report, I get to choose our population number, and I do it based on water connections. So this is what I consider our service population. Next week, when everyone's here for Parade of Homes and baseball games and soccer games, we serve 45,431 residents, and that number's growing every day. And I think that's something to really be proud of. And we do that with 342 full-time equivalent employees, meaning if we took all the part-timers and we added up all their time, we have 342 employees that help us do that. Our community development and our building staff went through 844 residential building permits last year. You can see some of the numbers I think are impressive. Our water per capita per day is down to 132. That's countywide. That's now a countywide number. and it was 400 and more than 400 just a few years ago. So a lot of work has been done there. 432,000 visitors to the community center, and that, you know, that falls on our leisure services group to take care of those people. You know, over 10,600 calls for police service every year, and you can see our amazing response times. Fire, 1,700 fire calls now. That's up from 800. That's mostly to do, we switched software, and so Chief Evans felt like the 800 number was low all along, but this is a more representative number of what fire's really doing. You can see over 2,000 EMS calls. One thing I would point out, last year, the way that Blake and his team count miles of streets repaired, they count all the slurry seal miles. And last year, we didn't do a slurry seal project. We did all of 2000 South reconstruction with our money instead. So that's the 1.57 miles instead of the 22 miles, but a major reconstruction instead of a lot of slurry seal. And then to Paul, I see Paul back there, and Barry, 202 acres of parks, and that includes parks, trails, trailheads, all of the things that we add that make our city a great place to live. You can see when you get down to the accomplishments, I mean, there's a lot that happened in 2024, a lot that we budgeted for, and a lot that we're able to accomplish. I just really do appreciate the council, the city, the opportunity that we have to work with our residents and make life really good for our residents, and that's because of the employees that we have that do such a great job. So that's my report, Mayor, unless you have any questions about the report.
Mayor, I was going to say that the Green Springs right turn and the widening of Red Hills was a smashing success. I've heard a lot of good feedback.
Good. And you can see that was one of our goals for 2025. We've already accomplished it. So we're well on our way. So that's good. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, and it's more of just, you know, I had the opportunity I was on vacation last week and got to visit Jamaica and Haiti, and we just have the best country in the world, and I'm glad that we have, like, you see the way they live. We just live so much better than they do. And I don't know how they get a shot. Like, it's sad to me they can't get a shot like we get. So we just got to value that as we move forward. So.
Well said. Next item, 12, closed session. We do need to move into closed session for pending or potential litigation. I'll call for a motion to move to closed session.
So made.
Have a motion by Councilman Belliston.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Ivy. All in favor?
Aye.
I need an aye. Councilwoman Casperson. We got 5 aye votes to move into closed session. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Appreciate you being here.